future. And so no matter where we are, all of us can take next steps in growing in our communication. And so my challenge to us this morning is that we become dynamic communicators. That we become dynamic communicators. And the reality is there's a verse in Mark chapter 3 that says this: a house divided against itself cannot stand. A house that's divided will have strife, will have difficulty, will have conflict. And the reality is Jesus says if that house is divided, you're going to have warfare. You're going to be in a war zone. And it's just a principle that a lot of our conflict comes from miscommunication. And so as we talk this morning, I would just challenge us, think about it. How can I become a better, more dynamic communicator in all that I do in my relationships and family, and specifically in my marriage? And they say that 80% of all conflict in marriage has to do with a challenge in or breakdown in communication. And so if we're talking about taking our marriages and seeing them really thrive and go to the next level and be all that God wants them to be, it has a lot to do with how we communicate. So let's talk this morning about becoming dynamic communicators. And the interesting thing is God set the precedent, right? He's the one, when he wanted to talk about who he is, he sent Jesus in human form, and it said, and the Word became flesh and literally tabernacled among us, literally moved in to the neighborhood. Literally, in grace and truth, he became all that we needed to know about God. So we become more like God as we pursue a relationship with Christ by becoming better communicators. So let's jump in and look at some of these principles of communication that we could really grow in. And the first one is this: we become dynamic communicators by preparing to communicate. It says in Ecclesiastes that there is a time and procedure for every matter. There is a right time, a right procedure for every matter. Because what we have to do is we have to start off with preparing to communicate. Is it the right time? Am I choosing the right time in the other person's life, in the daily grind, in my circumstances? Have I asked the question, is this the best timing? Timing can be everything. Because think about it. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you're maybe a couple minutes into it and you're having this really deep, in-depth conversation? Maybe you planned it out or maybe you haven't, and you just jump right into it and you're in it a couple of minutes and you're just like, oh man, this was a bad decision. This was the wrong time to bring this up. And you're like, oh, Mayday, Mayday, we're going down, in your mind. And you're like, oh, I've committed to it now. And so what we have to do is we have to think about the timing and prepare. So the question is, when do we bring things up? Because it's probably not the best time to bring something up to your spouse right before bedtime. That doesn't work in my house. Or probably in the best time when they're running out the door to work and you bring up this huge conversation piece that needs to be talked about. There's not enough time to do it. Or emotionally, right? I don't bring up stuff on Friday afternoons in my house because that's one of the most stressful times for my wife. So what is the timing and how do you pick the right time? And for some of us, it's finding time in our week and in our rhythms, because some of us, we're so busy with carpools and sports teams and school and work, and some of us work 70 and 80 hours a week, and so we need to take some alone time to intentionally communicate the things that need to be communicated in our marriages, right? And so for some of us, it may be, okay, are we taking enough couch time where the kids are in bed or the kids are with a babysitter or everybody else in the house is taken care of, and we can just sit on the couch, turn and face each other, and really have some eye-to-eye, heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul communication.